Perfectly timed afternoon sandwich complete.
Then I can advance with my
Bagel sandwich! The raccoon is back!
Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to Binging with Babish, where this week we're taking a look at Bagel Sandwiches from Steven Universe. Now, the first mountain that we have to climb is most certainly the bagel. Those not fortunate enough to live here in Bagel Paradise, New York, are often relegated to buying these supermarket bagels from a bag. We can, of course, assemble a facsimile of one of the sandwiches featured on the show, but it's just not very good. Supermarket bagels lack crunch and crust and chew, and they're thick and bready and have a weird sweet flavor to them. And you just haven't lived until you've tried a really good bagel. So we're gonna follow a recipe from the notoriously fastidious foodies over at ChefSteps.com. Into the bowl of a stand mixer goes 250 grams of bread flour and 1 teaspoon of active dry yeast, tiny whisked together and combined with 350 grams or about 12¼ ounces of water. Regular sized spatula those together into a paste, which we're going to cover with plastic wrap and proof at room temperature for 2 to 3 hours until it is bubbling with activity. Once unwrapped, you should see lots and lots of tiny little bubbles indicating that our yeast is alive and well. Set that in the stand mixer while we measure out the rest of our dry ingredients. 400 more grams of bread flour, 25 grams of granulated sugar, 25 grams of diastatic malt powder for flavor. If you can't find this, just substitute with more bread flour, and 10 grams of kosher salt. Give those a tiny whiskin, and then with the machine running and the dough hook attached, we're going to slowly spoon in the remaining dry ingredients until we can't spoon no more. Next up, this dough's got to be kneaded for 20 minutes, which is going to be tough on your stand mixer, so just be aware and supportive and just present, you know? Once 20 minutes have elapsed, you'll be left with a very smooth, very supple, very stretchy dough, indicating that you've developed a lovely network of very glutinous gluten. Now it's time to let both our stand mixer and our dough rest, but the dough is resting covered in the fridge for 20 minutes. While the dough is resting, we're going to grease up a half-size sheet pan lined with parchment paper and then grease up that parchment paper as well before divvying up the dough into balls. Balls that weigh 65 grams to be precise, and then to roll them into balls, we're going to tuck them underneath themselves, pulling their tops taut and making them nice and smooth and round. We're going to keep these covered with a damp towel in between ball formations because this dough develops a skin very, very quickly. Then once we've got our dough balls doled out, it's time to give them another rest. We're covering with plastic wrap and placing in the fridge for 20 minutes. Next up, we are at long last forming our balls into bagels. This is done very simply by slowly and gently pressing a hole into the middle of the ball. Once we've managed to punch a hole, we can insert 2 fingers and stretch the dough out into a bagel. Once you've got your bagel all stretched out, place it back on the sheet and cover with plastic so it don't develop a skin. Rinse and repeat with the remaining dough balls. Once everybody's all shaped and stretched out, it's time for yet another covered rest, but this time to proof. The bagels need to proof for about 20 minutes before they are placed in the fridge overnight for at least 24 hours. This is not only going to deepen their flavor, it's going to give the exterior the dappled little blisters that, in my mind, are the cornerstone of a good bagel. Speaking of which, it's time to prepare our boiling liquid. I've got probably about 1.5 gallons of water here, to which I am adding 1 tablespoon of barley syrup, along with about 2 teaspoons of baking soda, both of which are going to further help develop our bagel's crust. Go ahead and make sure those are nice and dissolved and the water has the appearance of a dehydrated person's urine. Grab one of our overnight fermented bagels, and it's time to bring it on over to the stovetop, where we are going to boil them for 60 seconds on each side. This should puff them up significantly and help form a sticky gelatinous layer on the outside of the bagel. Once they are done boiling, we are flipping them back over smooth side up onto a wire rack to drain for about 1 minute, after which we're going to place them on a lightly greased parchment paper lined baking sheet and bake them in a 425° Fahrenheit oven for 15 minutes, rotating the tray once after 7 minutes and flipping the bagels once after 13 minutes, which will ensure that your bagels are evenly browned. After that, flip them back over once again onto a cooling rack, and there you have it. My idea of the perfect bagel. Deep golden brown, bespeckled with tiny crispy bubbles, a shatteringly crunchy crust, and a light, fluffy, but somehow also chewy interior. But if you're like me, your favorite kind of bagel is everything. So in a small bowl, we're combining some onion granules, garlic flakes, white sesame seeds, black sesame seeds, poppy seeds, caraway seeds, and flaky Maldon salt. Tossed together to combine, and there you have it, everything bagel seasoning, which if you want to add this or any other toppings to your bagels, do so just after boiling and just before baking, which will adhere them permanently to your bagel's surface. Once all of your bagels are baked and cooled for about 20 minutes on a wire rack, back, it's finally time to get to sandwich making. So far as I can tell, there are 3 notable iterations of bagel sandwiches in Steven Universe, distinguished mostly by their fillings, but they're all going to start the same way with a toasted bagel. Steven uses an actual toaster. I'm going to toast mine in some butter in a frying pan. As per some line art I found on the internet, this first sandwich utilizes 2 slices of turkey, which I cut out using a ring mold, also so I can snack on the scraps, and a fried egg, which I'm going to interpret as over easy, mainly because it's my favorite kind of egg to have in a breakfast sandwich, and I'm starting to get pretty hungry by this point. Once that egg is all fried up, I'm going to similarly cut it into a circle around the yolk using a ring mold. I'm doing this because all of Steven's sandwiches seem so symmetrical, which is a lot of S words. We're topping the egg up with the cheese, and the cheese up with the top half of the bagel, and then it's time to toast this guy for no longer than 3 minutes at about 400 degrees Fahrenheit, which is just enough to melt the cheese. Now at this point I'm very excited because this is the first opportunity for a cross-section on this show in ages, and it's perfectly lovely. It's very hard to beat a runny yolk, and the sandwich itself is pretty great. I'm something of a breakfast sandwich aficionado, and this one's flavor, texture, appearance, and structural integrity are all top-notch. But the smoked turkey just isn't hitting me where I live. Plus the cross-section could use some work, so I've got a few ideas as we head into the next iteration. One that appears to have more of an egg patty than a traditional fried egg, so into a ring mold set into a nonstick pan goes a teensy pat of butter and a just barely beaten egg. I'm then going to turn down the heat nice and low and place something on top of the ring mold. What we got here? Ramekins fine. This is to trap some steam and let the egg cook. Once the egg is fully cooked through, I'm going to make sure that it's separated from the sides of the ring mold, and voila. Maybe give it a little flip to make sure that both sides have some color, and then top up our toasted bagel bottom with some Canadian bacon, followed by our cute little egg patty, and you might be surprised to see me not putting cheese on this. And that's because I learned a cool trick from a food stylist friend. Start by slicing your sandwich in half, take off the top bun, now add the cheese, replace the top bun, and toast the whole thing to melty completion, which will ensure a bare minimum B+ cheese stretch. Into the oven it goes, and out of the oven it comes, looking just like any other old breakfast sandwich, but this one has a dirty little secret, an unbroken sheet of cheese. I think we need to rack focus for this one, and a moment of silence, please. I mean, come on, that's just cheating. And this one, as you can imagine, is a much more traditional and familiar breakfast sandwich. I'm into it. It's speaking my language. It's running up the flagpole, and I am saluting it. Next and last, Butterfingers with Babish. Next and last, we have a lox and cream cheese affair. I'm going to do the same egg patty as before. Cut myself a ring of smoked Scottish salmon, place that on top of the egg patty, and top the whole affair with a smear of cream cheese. And I can tell you already, I'm gonna like this one. I like bagels and lox. This is bagels and lox plus an egg. What's not to like, except for maybe the cross-section is a little boring. But if we've learned anything from The Ugly Duckling, She's All That, David Chang's Ugly Delicious, it's that looks aren't everything. This sandwich looks boring and it tastes anything but. Anyway, now that I've recovered from that serious tangent, let's make us a Babish version. We're not necessarily trying to improve, I just want to make my version of a breakfast sandwich. We're going to start by making a rudimentary breakfast sausage, combining a tablespoon each of chopped fresh sage and thyme, a sprinkle of garlic powder, a sprinkle of onion powder, an optional big sprinkle of red chili flake if you like it to heat, a sprinkle of chili powder for flavor, a sprinkle of smoked paprika for smoke, and normally I opt for maple syrup, but I couldn't find mine, so 2 tablespoons of brown sugar, a generous pinch of kosher salt, and a few twists of freshly ground black pepper. Don the black gloves of meaty massage, and let these flavors get to know each other. Make sure everything is super well combined and homogeneous before shaping into patties. I'm going with a pretty wide, thin patty here because it's going to shrink, and I really want it to conform to the size of my bagels. Stack that on first, followed by the egg patty. I really like Steven's meat then egg orientation. It makes for a more structurally sound sandwich. And because I'm craving another cheese stretch, I'm doing the cut in half first trick with a slice of pepper jack, which is going to play real nice with the sweetness and spiciness going on in our sausage patty. Retrieve that from the oven, let's throw our gloves in the laundry, I guess, and it's time for the pull apart. Another moment of silence, please. Yeah, buddy. So what did we learn today? Bacon, eggs, and meat on a sandwich are awesome, newsflash. But the bigger lesson is that a bagel sandwich is only as good as its bagel. In that spirit, I know this one's a little bit more difficult and time consuming, but I really hope you guys give it a try for yourselves. I'm off to induct this half into the Clean Plate Club. Hey folks, you might remember back in May I announced that Omaze wants to give you the chance to win a trip to Italy with me. Well, tomorrow, June 24th, is the final day to enter, so head on over to omaze.com/babish, where a donation of $10 will enter you for a chance to win this incredible experience. Every donation will support Meals on Wheels America. Head on over there now, and I will see you in Italy.